California detectives approached 75-year-old Air Force veteran Gary Jean Ramirez, verified his identity with a military ID, presented a decades-old murder warrant from California, and watched his confusion turn to shock as he was placed under arrest for a crime connected to 1982. After Gary Ramirez was taken into custody, detectives informed him that the arrest stemmed from the unsolved 1982 murder of 15-year-old Karen Stitt, collected a fresh DNA sample at the station, and began preparing to confront him with evidence that had survived 4 decades. On the morning of September 3, 1982, worried father Robert Stitt contacted Sunnyvale police to report that his 15-year-old daughter Karen had not returned home, and his growing concern quickly became fear when detectives asked him to come to the station in person. While Robert rushed to learn what had happened, Sunnyvale detectives investigated a secluded roadside area where Karen Stitt was discovered near bushes and a cinder block wall, transforming a missing person search into a homicide investigation. As detectives searched for answers, they learned that Karen had traveled from Palo Alto to Sunnyvale, met her 17-year-old boyfriend David at a convenience store, shared drinks with him, and spent the evening walking near a miniature golf course before heading toward a bus stop alone. With Karen's final movements established, investigators repeatedly questioned 17-year-old David, searched for inconsistencies in his account of the night, and increasingly focused on him as the most immediate suspect in the murder investigation. As years turned into decades, detectives repeatedly revisited Karen Stitt's case, compared DNA from numerous potential suspects and relatives, eliminated one lead after another, and watched the investigation remain painfully unsolved, despite advancing forensic technology. 40 years after Karen's murder, a new investigative lead connected crime scene DNA to members of the Ramirez family, allowing detectives to trace the unidentified profile directly to Gary Jean Ramirez and finally identify their primary suspect. After identifying Gary Ramirez as their suspect, California investigators traveled to Hawaii, located the retired Air Force veteran living quietly with his family, and prepared to execute the arrest warrant. Once inside the interview room, detectives advised Gary Ramirez of his rights, questioned him about his history in California, and listened as he minimized his connections to Sunnyvale, despite acknowledging visits to nearby Palo Alto during the 1980s. The interview intensified when detectives revealed that physical evidence from Karen Stitt's murder scene contained DNA linked specifically to Gary Ramirez, forcing him to confront the reality that decades-old forensic evidence had finally identified him. After detectives showed Gary Ramirez a photograph of 15-year-old Karen Stitt and described the evidence surrounding her death, he denied responsibility, declined further discussion, and ultimately requested a lawyer, bringing the interrogation to an abrupt end. Following the interview, authorities booked Gary Ramirez into the Maui County Jail, processed the suspect behind the 40-year-old cold case, and prepared for criminal proceedings that had been delayed for decades. After pleading no contest in court, 78-year-old Gary Ramirez was convicted of Karen Stitt's murder, received a sentence of 25 years to life in prison, and faced the consequences of a crime that had remained hidden for 4 decades. Although several members of Karen Stitt's immediate family passed away before the case was solved, the conviction finally identified her killer, answered questions that had lingered since 1982, and brought long-delayed justice to a tragedy that endured for more than 40 years. Remember, every victim has a story worth telling. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next case.